I still remember the moment I found out everything. It's burned into my brain like a bad tattoo, etched so deeply I can't forget it even if I wanted to. We were on our honeymoon. I thought I knew my wife, thought I knew us. But that night, lying half asleep in the hotel bed, my phone lit up in my hand, showing her messages. I didn't need a detective to tell me what was happening. Her words, her tone, it was all there, laid out for me like a slap across the face. She was texting her boss, the CEO of her company. Just random banter, she said. No big deal, but the vibe, it was different, flirty, intimate, like they were sharing a secret only they knew about. I saw her smile in the glow of the screen. Her fingers danced over the keys and I could feel my stomach twisting, knotting tight. My mind spun into overdrive. How long? Did I miss the signs? Were there clues I ignored? I remembered small things, her avoiding my gaze late nights at her office, the way she'd always be quick to dismiss my questions. All of it suddenly made sense. She'd been lying. From the start, but that wasn't even the worst part. I saw enough to know this wasn't a mistake or a fling. It was something serious. I sat up, my palms sweaty. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could do was stare. She was so caught up in her phone, like she didn't even realize I was awake. The room was dead silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning and the faint click of her keyboard. I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. When I finally managed to speak, my voice was hoarse. "Who is he?" She froze, her eyes darting to the screen then back to me. Her face went pale. "It's nothing, just work stuff," she mumbled, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying her. "No, tell me the truth. Who is he?" She hesitated, then whispered, "It's my boss, the CEO. I didn't mean for you to find out like this." That's when I felt the ground shift beneath me. Her boss. The man who'd been grooming her for months, who'd been promising her a future I'd never even seen coming. It was like a punch to the gut. I wanted to yell, to cry, but mostly I felt numb. Like someone had yanked the rug out from under my feet, leaving me stranded in a flood of betrayal. I remembered everything I had ever trusted about her, and it suddenly felt fragile, like a house built on shifting sand. That night, lying there, I realized I'd been a fool. I'd waved off the little red flags, convinced myself she was working late, that her texting was innocent. But now I saw it all clearly. She'd been sneaking around, lying to my face, gaslighting me with her excuses. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her messages, her smile, her fingers typing. The scent of her perfume, the softness of her skin, so deceptive now in my mind. I kept asking myself, how did I miss it? How did I fail to see the signs? And most of all, how could she do this to me, right before we were supposed to start our life together? In the morning, I made a decision. I needed a plan, something cold and calculated, something to make her regret every lie, every moment of gaslighting. I didn't want a messy breakup or some bitter shouting match. I wanted her to feel the pain she had inflicted on me in a way that would hit her where it hurt. But first I needed proof, proof that she'd been lying, cheating, and hiding this from me. I knew her routines, her habits. I knew her passwords, her phone. I had to be smart. I had to be meticulous. I spent the day gathering evidence, making copies of her messages, tracking her calls. I wanted everything in black and white, no room for denial. I kept her close, pretending everything was normal, but inside I was already plotting. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. I wanted her to see that I wasn't just some naive husband-to-be. I was capable of playing her game back at her. I had to be careful. This wasn't just about her cheating. It was about reclaiming my dignity. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the evidence I'd collected. My heart was pounding again, but this time with purpose. I knew what I had to do. The question was when. When would be the right moment to strike? When she'd least expect it. She thought she was safe, that she'd gotten away with everything, but I was just getting started, and I wasn't going to let her walk away without paying for what she'd done. Not anymore. The next few days felt like walking on a tightrope. I was waiting, watching, planning. Every move she made, I scrutinized. She stayed late at her office, always with that same secretive smile. I knew she was hiding something, and I was determined to find out everything before I made my move. I kept my composure, acting normal, but inside my mind was spinning. I had to be smart. I couldn't blow everything before I was ready. One afternoon, she left her phone on the kitchen counter when she went to the bathroom. I saw my chance. I knew her password, had watched her type it enough times. Heart pounding, I unlocked it. My pulse raced as I scrolled through her messages. It was worse than I'd feared, more than just innocent exchanges. There were pictures, explicit messages, plans to meet outside work. I felt a sick flutter in my stomach. She'd been planning this for weeks, maybe longer. I also found something else, a series of texts between her and her boss discussing a weekend getaway. She kept calling him the boss, but I knew exactly who he was, the CEO. That's when I realized this was more than some fling. It was a full-blown affair, something she'd carefully kept hidden even from me until she thought I'd never find out. I closed her phone, my hands trembling. I felt my jaw tighten, and a wave of anger surged through me. How could she betray me like this right before our wedding? I'd been planning this for months, saving up, doing everything right. And she'd been sleeping around with her boss the entire time. I wanted to break something, to scream, but I kept my cool. I needed to be strategic. That night I sat there thinking about what to do next. I knew she'd be back home late, probably trying to keep things normal. I wanted to catch her off guard, to see her vulnerable. When she finally came in, I confronted her with the evidence I had. "Who is he?" I asked coldly, holding her phone out in front of her. Her eyes widened and her face lost all its color. She stammered, "It's not what you think." "No more lies." I cut her off. "I know everything, the messages, the plans. You've been cheating on me, haven't you?" She looked away, silent, her hands clenched into fists. "You don't understand. It's complicated. I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Save it," I said bitterly. "You've been lying, gaslighting me, making me think I was crazy for asking questions. Well, I'm done. I've had enough." She tried to plead, but I shut her down. "You're not the woman I thought I married, and I'm not going to let you get away with this. You've been playing me for months." I knew I couldn't just walk away. I needed to make her feel the pain, the loss, the betrayal. I spent the following days meticulously planning my revenge. I wasn't the kind of man who'd do something reckless, but I was determined to make her regret what she'd done. I reached out to a private investigator I knew from work, someone who owed me a favor. I ordered a full report, including her contacts, her whereabouts, even her secret meetings. I wanted everything. I wanted her to see that I was serious. Meanwhile, I also started to prepare my own confrontation, something cold, calculated, and final. The plan was simple in concept but devastating in execution. I would set up a situation where she'd realize her lies had been uncovered completely. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, and trapped. It was about sending a message. She couldn't gaslight her way out of this one. I collected all the evidence, screenshots, locations, her messages, and stored them securely. I knew I had to be careful. I didn't want her to catch wind of my plans until I was ready. I kept my face composed, but inside there was a simmering fury. Every time I thought about her smile, her whispers, I felt the urge to tear everything apart. One evening, I sat her down again. "You think you can lie your way out of this? You think I don't see what you're doing?" I looked her straight in the eyes, my fists clenched. "You've been cheating, lying, and trying to gaslight me into believing I'm crazy, but I'm done playing your game." She looked at me, her eyes filled with fear and guilt. "Please, just listen. I'm sorry. It was a mistake, a stupid mistake." "Save it," I snapped. "You can't fix this. You've ruined everything." That was the night I decided I was going to give her one last chance to come clean. But if she didn't, I had a plan to make sure she paid for her betrayal. I wasn't just going to walk away, I was going to make her wish she'd never crossed me. Now I waited for the right moment. I was ready to turn everything upside down. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my dignity and making sure she understood she couldn't lie her way out of what she'd done. I'd set the trap, and soon I'd make her walk right into it. The waiting was the hardest part. Every day I felt like I was walking on glass, knowing that any misstep could blow everything up before I was ready. I kept everything close to the chest, my evidence, my plan, my resolve. I watched her carefully, noting her routines, her weak spots. She still tried to act normal, but I saw the cracks in her facade, the way she flinched whenever I looked at her too long, the subtle tics when she lied. One night she came home late again. I was sitting in the living room pretending to watch TV, but my eyes were glued to her every move. She looked tired, shifty, like she'd been running from something. She dropped her bag on the sofa and sighed loudly. I didn't say a word. Instead, I let her think I was oblivious. She finally broke the silence, voice trembling. "Can we just talk?" I leaned forward, arms resting on my knees. "There's nothing left to say," I replied coolly. "You lied to my face for months. I have everything documented. You're not getting out of this without consequences." She stared at me, tears welling in her eyes. "It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was confused. I thought I loved him." Her voice cracked, but I didn't buy it. She'd been lying to me for too long. "Love," I spat. "You think cheating on me with your boss is love?" I felt my stomach tighten. Or is it just convenience, some stupid game you played because you felt entitled? Her lips trembled. "Please, I didn't want to hurt you, I swear." "Too late," I interrupted sharply. "You've hurt me enough, and now I'm planning to make sure you regret it." Her eyes widened in fear, but she tried to hide it. I knew I had to act fast. This was the moment. I pulled out the folder I'd been compiling, screenshots of her messages, GPS logs, the photos from her secret meetings. I slammed it onto the coffee table. "Look at this. Every lie, every secret rendezvous, it's all here, and I'm done pretending I don't see it." Her face blanched. "You're crazy. You don't have proof of everything." "Oh, I do," I snapped. "More than enough to destroy you if I wanted, but I'm not just going to ruin your career or humiliate you. No, I have something more satisfying in mind." She looked at me with wide, trembling eyes. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath, slowly standing up. "You've been playing with fire, and now I'm going to turn the tables. You're going to wish you never crossed me." I paused, letting my words sink in. "I've contacted someone I trust, an old friend who knows how to make people understand that betrayal always comes with a price, and soon enough you'll see what that looks like." She backed away a little, her voice almost pleading. "Please don't do this. We can fix it. I'll leave him. I'll come clean, I swear." I shook my head slowly. "It's too late for apologies. I want you to understand one thing: I don't forgive easily. And I definitely don't forget. So when the moment comes, you'll feel everything you've been trying to hide." That night, I finalized my plan. It was simple but effective. I was going to confront her with undeniable proof, but on my terms. No screaming, no shouting. Just her realizing that her lies had reached their end. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't going to be her doormat anymore. In the meantime, I kept gathering every last piece of evidence: call logs, emails, the hotel reservations she'd made for her secret meetings. I even arranged for a discreet recording of a phone call between her and her boss, just in case. I had to be sure I was airtight. Once I showed her everything, I knew she'd have nowhere to run. My stomach churned with anticipation. I could almost see her face when she realized I knew everything, her perfect cover blown apart. I was more determined than ever. I wanted her to understand that betrayal had consequences, and I wasn't going to be the fool who got played. The night before the confrontation, I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. All the pieces were in place. I felt a strange mix of nausea and relief. I'd finally taken control. If she thought she could cheat and gaslight her way out of it, she was dead wrong. I'd make her regret every single lie. And when the moment was right, I'd finally end this one way or another. I knew I had to be patient. I knew the timing had to be perfect. But I also knew I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. Not this time. The day of reckoning finally arrived. I woke up with a strange feeling, part anticipation, part dread. I knew she'd try to deny, to bargain, to twist everything in her favor. But I was done playing nice. I had everything lined up, proof stacked so high it was impossible to ignore. All I needed was to catch her in the act, or at least make her see that I knew the truth, straight in her face. She left early, claiming she was going to meet with a client, but I knew better. I followed her from a distance, just out of sight like a shadow. I parked a few blocks away and watched her walk into a nondescript building downtown. My heart hammered in my chest. This was it. Minutes felt like hours. Then I saw her come out, hurried and flustered, clutching her purse tightly. She looked around nervously, checking her phone like she was worried about being followed. I stayed hidden, my palms sweaty, waiting for her to go somewhere I could intercept her. I had to be subtle. I didn't want to tip her off until I was ready. I followed her to a small cafe where she met with someone. When I got close enough, I saw the familiar face, her boss. The same man from the messages, the one who'd been creeping into her life for months. They sat in a corner speaking quietly. I could see her fidgeting, her face tense, her eyes darting around. She was scared. Good. I snapped some photos of them together, then made sure I had plenty of evidence. Once I had enough, I slipped away and headed back home. My mind was racing. I could feel the adrenaline pulsing through me. This was the moment I'd been planning for. When I got home, I set everything up. I played the recordings of her conversation, the screenshots from her phone, the GPS logs. All the pieces fit together perfectly. I even prepared a final message to send her, one that would make her understand she was caught, completely exposed. That evening she came home looking exhausted but still trying to put on a brave face. I didn't say a word at first. Instead, I handed her the phone with all the evidence on it. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through the messages, the photos, the recordings. She stammered, "This can't be real. I didn't think you'd find out like this." "Oh, I found out," I said coldly, "and now it's over." Her face twisted in shock and panic. "Please." "I didn't mean for it to get this far. I was confused. I was stupid." "Save it," I snapped. "You've been lying for months, cheating on me with your boss, planning your escape. I've seen enough." She looked at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I love you. I swear it was just a mistake." "You're not about to guilt-trip me now," I cut her off. "You betrayed everything we had. And I want you to understand something. I'm not just going to walk away. I'm going to make sure you regret every moment of this." Her hands shook as she tried to plead, but I was beyond listening. I'd already decided what was next. I handed her a folder full of everything I'd collected. I told her, "This is just the beginning. You'll see how much damage a lie can do when it's finally uncovered." She looked at me defeated, then tried to grab her bag and leave. I blocked the door. "Not yet," I said. "You're going to stay right here. We're going to have a real talk. And when I'm done, you'll understand that this isn't a game anymore." I watched her, the guilt and fear flickering across her face. I felt nothing now but cold resolve. She thought she could cheat and lie her way out of this. She thought she could gaslight me into believing she was innocent. But I was done being a victim. I was taking control. That night I laid out my plan. No more waiting, no more hiding. I was going to show her that I had the power she never thought I'd have. I was going to make her feel exactly what she'd made me feel: exposed, humiliated, and defeated. I knew she'd try to deny everything to bargain her way out, but I had ways to make her see the truth. It wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about justice, about making her understand that betrayal has a price, and I was the one who was going to collect it. I kept my phone close, ready to send the final blow to make her realize she'd lost everything. And I waited, knowing that very soon she'd be faced with the consequences of her actions. My stomach was tight with anticipation. I was finally in control, and I wasn't going to let go. Moment I pressed send, I could feel everything shifting. The message I crafted was direct, cold, and unambiguous. It laid out every piece of evidence, every lie, every betrayal, everything she tried to hide. I didn't want to leave her any room for denial. I wanted her to understand that her game was over. I watched her face as her eyes darted across the screen, reading the message I'd sent to her phone. Her hands trembled and her jaw clenched. She looked like someone who'd just been hit by a freight train. I could see her trying to hold it together, but the cracks appeared in her composure. Her eyes welled up with tears and her breathing grew shallow. "You're kidding, right?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "You really went through all this?" "Yeah," I said flatly. "I went through everything, and now you're going to understand what it feels like to be caught. You thought you could cheat and lie, but I'm not someone to be played with." She stared at me, her face a mask of shock mixed with pure panic. "This isn't fair. I was confused. I didn't mean for it to happen." "Like this?" "Bullshit," I snapped. "You made your choices. I've got the proof, all of it, and I'm not wasting another second pretending this is okay." Her shoulders sagged and she looked like she was about to break. "Please just don't do this. I love you. I swear I'll fix it. I'll leave him. I'll cut all ties. Just don't do anything crazy." Her voice cracked on the last words, desperation dripping from her tone. I took a step closer, feeling the fire inside me surge. "You don't get to decide what's crazy anymore. You lied, you cheated, and you gaslit me. You thought you could get away with it, but I've had enough. I want you to sit here and listen." She sank onto the couch, clutching her face with her hands. Tears streamed down her cheeks and she looked utterly defeated. My stomach twisted, but I didn't let that show. I had come too far and I knew what I had to do next. "Look," I said softly, "I'm not here to humiliate you. I just want you to understand how deep your betrayal runs. I want you to see that you can't lie your way out of this. That's why I've set up everything. You're not getting a second chance, at least not from me." She looked up, her eyes red and swollen. "Please, I'll do anything, just don't ruin me completely." "You already did," I said, "and now I'm going to take back what's mine. Your keys, your phone, everything, because I don't want you near me anymore, not after what you've done." I reached into my pocket and pulled out her keys, then placed them on the table with a firm slap. Her face twisted in shock, but she didn't stop me. "You're serious," she whispered, voice trembling. "Dead serious," I said, voice cold. "This is over, and I want you to remember trust is fragile. You broke it, and I'm done pretending I don't see it." She looked at me with a mixture of despair and disbelief, the realization sinking in that her lies had finally caught her. I saw her chest heave as she took a deep breath, trying to find some sort of refuge in her own mind. But there was none. Only the truth staring her down. That night she left the apartment. I watched her pack, watched her hesitate before grabbing her purse and walking out the door. I didn't stop her. I just stood there, feeling the weight of the moment settle over me like a shroud. I knew I'd done everything I could to end this chaos. As she disappeared down the hallway, I finally felt a strange sense of relief. It wasn't happiness or victory, but a cold clarity. I'd taken control. I'd laid the groundwork. Now, I just had to wait and see how she'd respond. I poured myself a drink, sat down, and stared into the darkness. My mind was clear now. I'd done what I had to do. No more lies, no more gaslighting. I'd taken my power back. And I knew deep down this was just the beginning. The fallout was coming, and I was ready for it. The aftermath hit harder than I expected. The silence in the apartment was deafening, like the walls themselves were mourning her absence. I was numb, part relief, part anger, part regret. I kept replaying everything, the betrayal, the lies, the moment I told her to leave. Honestly, it felt like a weight had been lifted. Still, a small voice in the back of my mind kept asking if I'd gone too far, if I'd overstepped, if I'd let my rage cloud my judgment. But the truth was, I'd done what I needed to do. I'd peeled back the layers of her deception and shown her I wasn't some naive fool. I handed her the keys, told her to walk away, and took back my dignity. The only thing left now was the final act, the complete, permanent break. The following days were filled with a strange mix of cold resolve and quiet reflection. I'd delete her number, change my passwords, and block her on everything. I wanted zero contact. No messages, no calls, no regrets, just a clean slate. I knew the scars would stay, but I also knew I'd come out stronger. One morning I sat in my car, clutching her keys in my hand. The sun was shining, but it felt like the world had gone dark. I looked at the keys, the symbol of everything that had shattered, her lies, her betrayal of what we'd built together. I took a deep breath, then walked over to the apartment complex's trash bin. I hesitated for a moment, then dropped her keys inside. They clinked softly as they hit the bottom. That sound was almost symbolic. I'd handed her back her freedom, her escape, if you want to call it that. I'd cut the ties, sealed the chapter. It was over. I watched as the keys disappeared into the darkness. Then I turned away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I knew I'd made my choice. No looking back, no second guessing. This was the end of her chapter in my life. As I drove off, I felt the tension in my shoulders ease. It was a strange feeling, like I'd been carrying a weight for so long I'd forgotten what it felt like to breathe without it. Now I could start fresh. The betrayal had been a blow, but it also revealed something essential. I was capable of standing up for myself, of putting an end to the chaos. I won't pretend it was easy. The pain lingered, and sometimes I wondered if I'd ever trust anyone again. But I also learned something critical. I deserve honesty, I deserve respect, and I won't tolerate lies anymore. Looking back, I realized that what hurt most wasn't just the betrayal. It was the gaslighting, the way she made me doubt myself, the way she tried to make me feel guilty for suspecting her. That's what eats away at you, thinking maybe you're crazy, maybe it's all in your head. But I was right all along, and I finally proved it to myself. To anyone who's been through something similar, here's my advice. Trust your gut and don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're overreacting. Gather evidence if you have to. Stay calm. Be strategic. Because at the end of the day, your dignity is worth more than any lie. I walked away from a betrayal that could have destroyed me, and I know for sure that I'll never let anyone do that to me again. Sometimes, the only way to reclaim your life is to cut the cord completely, and that's exactly what I did.